Right now, you are standing at the edge of a cliff. Your palms should be a little sweaty because every big change that you make in your life should get you excited, but also a little nervous. The truth is, if it doesn't scare you a little bit, it's probably not worth doing. Now, there's a reason that you're sitting here watching this right now. Maybe it's because you've struggled with women your whole life and you're afraid to live the rest of your life not knowing what it feels like to fall in love. Maybe you're afraid of failure and rejection and you're using that to not do the things that you know you have to do. Maybe your looks are holding you back and you feel insecure about putting yourself out into the world. Maybe you're afraid to go out alone and you feel like you need a wingman to talk to girls. Maybe you're just someone who keeps procrastinating and you're putting off the things that really matter to you in life. Regardless of which one of the previous situations you're in, that's no way to live. The good news is you're here now and we're here to help. So before I dive into the first subject, which is progressive challenges, and I'll explain exactly what that is later, you need to understand something. I'm about to give you a set of keys, and each one of those keys opens a door that you need to walk through. If you don't pay attention, you won't know which key goes to what door, and that means me giving you these keys will all be for nothing. So I want you to make a commitment right now and promise that you are not gonna let these set of keys go to waste. Not only that, but you need to promise that you are going to use these set of keys to its fullest potential. I'm not just giving you the keys, I'm showing you the doors. So I can say with a lot of certainty, the fact that you are watching this right now is a big deal. This is likely going to change the direction of your life, and it's going to have a deep, profound impact on your future. The fact that you're here means that you've already taken one of the most important steps. This video is going to show you exactly how to do what others have done to see amazing results. So first, I have a question for you. Who do you want to be a year from now? Think about this for a second, because no matter what you do, that time will pass. What you do with that time is what matters, and who you become in that time is what makes all the difference. Are you gonna be the type of guy who gets held back by anxiety and excuses, or are you going to be a type of guy who looks at himself in the mirror and says, I love this version of me? Now let me ask you this, what's stopping you from being that man today? I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I was always a loser. In school, whenever we had to pick teams for group projects, I would always get picked last. Every day, I would spend my lunch hour in the library, not because I was going to study, but because I had no friends to hang out with and nowhere else to go. People picked on me and bullied me because I was shy, because I was Asian, and because I was just simply different than everybody else. I didn't fit in, and as I said, I was a loser. I was always depressed, I used video games to escape reality, and thoughts of suicide would occasionally make its way into my mind. So eventually I decided to at least try to make a change, and I went online, read some articles about how to get out of depression, how to be more confident, and even how to get a girlfriend. The information that I learned was pretty mind-blowing, and the stories that I read about people like me who turned their lives around motivated me to take action. I never really had a serious girlfriend, so I decided to start with that and learned as much as I could about how to be a confident, attractive man to women. But here's the sad part. After learning all this stuff about picking up women and memorizing all these silly routines, it still took me more than 6 months to do my first approach. It took me 6 months just to talk to one random girl that I thought was attractive. I would walk around my college campus and spend hours upon hours just trying to get the nerve to approach just one girl, and I couldn't do it. I would leave my apartment extremely motivated to meet my potential girlfriend, but every time I saw a girl that I was attracted to, the same thing would happen over and over and over. My heart started beating at 100 miles per hour as if I had just run a marathon. My whole body would start trembling a little bit like a scared puppy who just got stripped away from its mother. And the weirdest part is my brain started to play out scenarios where I got rejected, and this made me feel embarrassed before I even did anything. This happened for a solid 6 months, and that was the point that I realized learning the stuff, watching videos, and reading about it is completely different than actually applying it. Eventually, with the help of Jesse and some other friends, I got myself to approach. I started talking to girls, but it took me nearly a year of going out before I got my first date with a girl. And you know what? I wouldn't even really call it a date. It was more of like a 30-minute friend zone session. So I guess you could even say I got 0 dates, but saying that I got 1 date after a year made me feel a little bit better, so that's the story that I stuck with. I was amazed at how little progress I was seeing. I wasn't banking hot models, I wasn't making any more friends, I was only a little better off than I was before, and it definitely was not where I thought I would be after a year of practicing this. So eventually, after 2 long years of doing it, Jesse and I figured out a way that we could get good really, really fast. I'm talking about things that would normally take guys months and months to master. We were doing it in just a matter of days. We didn't know it at the time, but we had accidentally figured out the secret to immersion training. So here's what happened. It was a 3-day weekend because there was some national holiday, so we were like, let's go try something crazy. Let's go out for 3 days in a row. Now, that might not sound like much, but we were only going out about once a week at the time, so 3 days was like a huge commitment. So we went out for 3 days, and what we discovered was by the 3rd day, we actually wanted to go out way more than usual, and we had a lot more fun when we did it. So that spawned another idea, which was, what if we went out for 7 days in a row instead of 3? Our theory was that if 3 days can make us feel that good, what could 7 days do? So we did this thing called the 7-day challenge. We went out every single day, and the rule was you cannot make any excuses. You have to go out, no matter what. Even if you were sick, even if you got your balls cut off, you cannot make excuses. You have to go out 7 days in a row. So we did that, and I'm not gonna give you a synopsis of what happened every single day. I'm just gonna tell you what happened on the last day. We had challenges for ourselves every single day. On the first day, we had to say hi to 10 people in 10 minutes. On the second day, we had to have a long conversation with 5 girls. The next day, we had to ask for 5 phone numbers. Basically, the challenges got harder and harder every single day. And then on the 7th day, we decided to do something really ballsy. The challenge was to kiss a girl that you just met. Keep in mind, this is at a point where I had only kissed 2 girls in my life. And one of the kisses was really bad, where I missed her lips, got her on the cheek, and she really never talked to me again. So realistically, I had only kissed 1 girl at that time. But going back to our challenge, it was on the 7th day, and I was in fucking God mode. We went to a bar in a city called Costa Mesa, and at this point, approaching girls was a lot easier for me. So I started to talk to this extremely hot girl who seriously looked like a supermodel. Imagine Mila Kunis's face on Kate Upton's body, and that's what this girl looked like. Usually, if I ever talked to a girl who was even half as hot as her, I would freeze up and start sweating as if I just saw a ghost or something. But because I went out for 7 days in a row, I felt unstoppable. So after a few minutes of talking to her, I went in for the kiss and we started making out. This was the first makeout I had in years. And again, keep in mind that this was a random girl I just met. This girl was really, really hot too. And I'm not just saying that to toot my own horn. I'm saying that because at the time, kissing a ridiculously hot girl wasn't even in the realm of possibilities for me. Anyway, at one point, as we were making out, she stopped to me and said, "Wow, you're a really bad kisser." And I kind of got embarrassed, and I tried to play it cool, and I was like, "Well, why don't you teach me?" So she starts giving me a step-by-step instruction on how to make out properly. She goes, "Just suck on my bottom lip like this," and she would do it to me, and then she says, "Okay, now try it on me." So then I do it, she gives me critiques, I do it some more, she gives me more critiques. This went on for 5 minutes. On the outside, I'm trying to play it cool, like, "Ah, yeah, that's nice, thanks for showing me that." But on the inside, I felt like a 9-year-old girl who just got a pony for her birthday. I was getting coached by this hot 10 out of 10 supermodel, and she was teaching me how to kiss. I remember the next day I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she asked me what's new. I randomly blurted out, "I gotta make out with a random girl in a club." She was really weirded out by that statement, and in hindsight, it was a horrible idea to bring that up to a traditional Asian mom, but that just shows you how excited I was about it and how much it motivated me to continue getting better at this. Those 7 days changed my whole perception on how I learn anything. In those 7 days, I progressed more than I had in the 2 years prior. Eventually, we turned this 7-day challenge into a 30-day challenge, and the results were mind-blowing. It is single-handedly the biggest reason that we reached the level that we're at right now. If it wasn't for the 30-day challenge, I'd probably be still learning how to talk to girls to this day. Now, let's talk about what makes going out multiple days in a row extremely effective. I'm gonna give you 2 tips to make a 30-day challenge guarantee you exponential growth and mind-blowing results. Tip number 1 is that you have to have progressive challenges. You can't just go out and not have a plan. You need to have a game plan that dictates what you're going to do each day. The problem is so many guys go out without a plan, they just wing it and they hope to get laid. They think that they don't need any sort of system and that if they just go out, the results will come to them. Now, although that is way better than doing nothing, it's not how it works. You need to give yourself progressive challenges every single day, challenges that cater to your skill level. Think about learning how to cook. You don't just go to the supermarket, buy a bunch of ingredients, and do whatever you think is right. If you did that for 30 days, sure, you're gonna learn something, but you're not gonna learn that much. You need to follow a plan and give yourself progressive challenges. So in the cooking example, before you even touch a stove or an oven, you need to learn how to use a knife correctly. You need to learn how to measure correctly. You need to learn many small things that are extremely important before you start cooking like a pro. So going back to the story of Jesse and me, we implemented progressive challenges, and we were going from challenges like get 1 phone number in the beginning to get a hand job in the club, and we were doing it. This was all in the span of 30 days, and you're never gonna see results like this from guys who just dabble in something. You have to immerse yourself if you wanna get really good. In fact, I've never even seen results like that until we started teaching other people our 30-day immersion training. And you might be thinking, okay, I'm just gonna do something for 30 days and I can get really good. But the challenges that you set for yourself are just as important as actually doing something for 30 days in a row. And here's why it's so great. When you set a challenge for yourself, you're giving yourself one thing to focus on. If you're focusing on more than one thing, you're actually going to take much longer to improve. You might think, hey, I'm gonna go out and work on like 5 to 10 things today so I can learn 5 times as fast. But that's actually gonna slow down your progress because you're gonna have to divide up your mental bandwidth way too much. And in the end, you're basically half-assing everything you do. If you focus on one thing at a time, you will progress much faster. Trust me, we've gone through it a million times, made all the mistakes, and we found out that focusing on one thing at a time provides much better results. When we teach boot camps, that's what we do. We don't just tell the boot camp student, hey, do all of these things at once, because that's just information overload. We give them one thing to work on at a time, and when they get good at that, we move on to the next thing. Basically, you need to ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do that will make everything else I do much easier? This is the mentality that you should have when you're structuring your challenges. Repeatedly asking yourself, what's the one thing I need to do right now, will provide you with actionable steps that build on each other, and that creates massive momentum. Keep asking yourself that question through your journey, and you're gonna find yourself achieving really, really incredible things. You also need to be realistic about your challenges. If you've never gone out in your life, you can't expect to start making out and pulling girls home right away. How are you even gonna do that if you don't know what to say and how to say it? So when you sit down and write out your challenges, you need to start small and end big. All right, so to make this a little bit easier to understand, I'm gonna draw a little graph here on how you should structure your challenges. So let's say that these are the days down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine it goes all the way to 30, right? And then this is the level of difficulty on a scale of 1 through 10, let's say. This is an arbitrary number, but let's say it's on a scale of 1 through 10. On the first day, you want to make your challenge pretty easy. On the second day, it gets a little harder. And then on the third day, it gets a little harder, and then so on and so forth. On the fourth day, it gets a little harder than that. And on the fifth day, it gets a little harder than that. So as you can see, slowly as you move through the days, the difficulty of your challenges should go higher and higher. And when you do this, you're basically tricking your brain. You might not think that day 5 is that hard compared to day 4 because it's only, a small increase in difficulty, but when you look back at what you did in day 1, that's a huge step. That's a lot of growth, and that is how you get good really, really fast. That is the power of setting incremental goals every single day. And when you look back on where you started and where you are at day 30, let's say, you are going to surprise yourself immeasurably. And you might be thinking that these incremental goals are obvious. Like, obviously you learn like that, but surprisingly, a lot of people, when they learn something, they just try to get into it. When you see people learning guitar, they don't learn the scales first. They don't practice just basic techniques first. What they do is they get tabs from a website and learn how to play a specific song. And although you might learn how to play that song, you don't get the foundation of learning how to play the guitar. You don't become really great by just learning random songs like that. Again, you have to give yourself progressive challenges. All right, so the second tip is that you have to write down your reflections every single day. Along with the challenges that you give yourself, you have to keep a journal. This is so huge, and so many people neglect this part of learning. Think about it like this. When you did your homework in any class in school, you had the luxury of someone grading your homework, usually your teacher or a TA, and they told you what you did right and what you did wrong. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist for building social skills and confidence. This is why having a journal is so important. You need to look back on your experience and grade yourself on what you did right, what you did wrong, so that you can continue doing what works and avoid making the same mistakes over and over in the future. Also, writing things down helps you to internalize an action plan for the future. Let me ask you this. How many times have you told yourself that you're going to do something but you never do it? I'm going to stop eating junk food. I'm going to stop playing video games. I'm going to stop jerking off. And then the next thing you know, you're at it again the next day. Why does this happen? One big reason is because you only told yourself that in your mind. That's not powerful enough for you to take action. When you take the time to write something down in detail and expand on it, something magical happens. It turns a small thought in your mind into something that is tangible, something that you actually take seriously now. It's like paying for something versus getting something for free. You're obviously going to value the paid item more because you're using your hard-earned money. It's the same with writing a journal. You're paying, not with money, but with your time to write down what you need to improve on and what your goals are day to day. Because of that, those goals immensely impact your actions and progress every day because it's ingrained inside your mind because you wrote it down. Be careful though. This isn't a notebook for you to brag about what you accomplished. Although you do want to write what you did well, what's just as important is your problem areas, things that you can improve on. This is a journal for yourself. It's not for anybody else. And the reason I say that is because for a lot of people, they like writing field reports on forums. And that's great. It's good entertainment and it's good for you to share your stories. But a lot of times it ends up being mental masturbation where people are just essentially bragging to other guys about what successes they've had. I remember when I wrote on forums in the past and I was pretty humble about it, but at the same time, I would say 70% of it was just me saying, look how great I am, and I would also throw jokes in there to make it more entertaining. Basically, when you write for other people, your ego gets in the way, and it's no longer about you, it's about other people reading what you wrote. And in terms of growth, That's not really productive. What you need to do is keep a private journal where you are brutally honest about your mistakes so that you can constantly be motivating yourself to improve rather than motivating yourself to impress other people. So in this journal, you're not trying to be funny, you're not trying to entertain, you're writing it for yourself to reflect on and nobody else. All right, so let's do a quick recap. Number one, you need to implement progressive challenges that slowly increase in difficulty. By doing this, you're going to see a rapid improvement over a very short period of time. Number two is that when you're doing these challenges, ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to focus on right now? And remember, do not do a bunch of things at once because it will slow down your progress. Number three is keep a private journal and document every single day so that you can reflect on what you've done. Now let's talk about you. So I wanted to share my story and my journey with you so that you could see what is possible, but you know what really makes me more excited to talk about than that? It's talking about people who have implemented a challenge-based 30-day program and who have seen amazing results. It's crazy how our students are people that started out as your typical worst-case scenarios. Some of them are guys that had so much anxiety they couldn't even make friends, let alone meet women. Some of them were so insecure about their looks and used the fact that they needed to look better as an excuse to sit at home and not do anything. Prior to going through a 30-day program, one guy used his sweaty palms as an excuse not to meet women. How ridiculous is that? But here's the coolest part. Seeing what happens to all these guys after 30 days of immersion training. They go from not being able to do anything to having an abundance of women and being absolute bosses. And that's why I'm excited for you to experience the same transformation. If you're watching this right now, you fall into one of three categories. The first category is guys who go out consistently. You talk to women, you're seeing success, but at a snail's pace. You're probably seeing a lot of plateaus and you don't know how to excel past that. One of the most common examples of this is guys who know how to get numbers left and right, but they can never get any dates. If this is you, then what you just learned is going to fast forward your progress, and now instead of waiting years to see the results that you want, it'll only take a few weeks, maybe even a few days. The second category is where you sometimes go out, but most of the time you find it hard to motivate yourself to actually do it, and you make a lot of excuses. I see guys in this category all the time, and in fact, this is the category that Jason fell into when he first started. Just like him, you've probably looped yourself into the bad habit of coming up with excuses. So here's what you need to do. Anytime you feel like making an excuse, replace that habit with a good one. Use everything that I talked about from this video in order to create good habits of taking action. The third category is where you can't even get yourself to talk to women at all because your anxiety is so overwhelming. You don't have the confidence to talk to anyone. You don't think you're good enough to actually do it. You have a lot of self-doubt and you feel like you have certain things that will always hold you back in life. If this is you, your life is going to change dramatically if you implement the three things I talked about today. This is going to be something that gives you results you previously couldn't have even imagined. If you're in this boat, then you're in the same boat that Jesse and I were in when we first started, and I've given you the tools in order to be a complete boss to get past that. Use what you've learned in this video to snap yourself out of those negative thoughts that you have about you. Now here's the sad part. No matter what category you fall into, even though I've given you all of this information and the tools you need to succeed, there's a good chance that you're still not going to do anything. I know this because of the extensive research we've done on people who try to better themselves with women. We've done a ton of surveys and we've even called people on the phone to talk about it, so we know the results. We've come to the realization that it's in human nature to want to be comfortable, to want to be stuck in old bad habits. We've seen time and time again how people fail to take action even though the tools are given to them. The good part about all this is that we figured out why people do this, and we've also figured out how to prevent it from happening. And that's what we're talking about tomorrow. How do we force you to take action? How do we make you become the person we know that you can be? Tomorrow's video is going to be the best one in this series, and without it, you're very likely to walk away from all of this with a ton of information and no action plan to make a change in your life. Today, we gave you the tools to be successful, but tomorrow, we're going to piece everything together for you and show you the absolute best ways to use those tools. It's gonna make it literally impossible to fail, and that's why I'm really excited for you to see this video tomorrow. And remember that question I asked you earlier about where you want to be a year from now? Take some time to think about it. How would your life look like a year from now if you had the ability to step outside and have an adventure with a beautiful woman you just met? How would your life look like a year from now if you were able to meet the girl of your dreams? How would that make you feel? It's important to answer this question to remind yourself why you're even here. Let me know in the comments. I will be reading every single one and I'll respond to as many as I can. And remember, the last video of this series comes out tomorrow and it's not going to stay up forever. In fact, we're going to be taking down all these videos in a few days. Missing tomorrow's video would be a tragedy. So look out for an email tomorrow with the link. I'll see you in the comments.